This is what we need to do. This is going to bring that school to the next level.
That's Thinkering. This Thinkering process is going to be really transformational to all subjects that we're talking about.
The value of the Alliance is it's a thinking collective. Now we have a greater understanding amongst everyone. And that's not what's common in schools.
I always tell our students this can set you apart, make you stand out, something to remember you by. It's an opportunity to share. It's win-win all around.
I think the biggest part of what we do are the humans that we work with on the other side of that, right? Really see the human impact, the way that they're interacting and working with their community.
It really does have to flip. You should be able to think about that as your hero's journey, to be able to know this is how I was able to overcome.
And I feel like continuing that mission is really important.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Thinkering Minds, where we explore what happens when education becomes more creative, more curious, more connected, and more human. Today's guest is a change maker and champion for social emotional learning, Pam McNall, founder and CEO of Respectful Ways. Respectful Ways is a digital SEL curriculum built to create cultures of respect, empathy, and belonging, which is the foundation of what a good education looks like. Pam, your work inspired so much of what we do here at the Thinkering Collective and Humanizing Learning. It's an honor to have you with us. To introduce you to our community. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Jim. I'm thrilled to be here. My fascination with social emotional learning started with my sister. She is an award-winning 33-year educator, special education, middle school special education teacher. And she had constantly always been working on character education. She transformed her school, and I was just so proud of her. And this is all going on while I have this other career: documentary producer, news producer, international news, national news, award-winning, Emmy and Peabody award-winning producer of news. And I produced a lot of war. And really, that just disturbed me, because that's not the footprint I'm looking for when I leave this earth. My legacy should not be that I was a really good war producer. I just wanted to make sure that I left a different footprint. So after leaving CNN, I collaborated with a few other CNNers and designed a look for some respectful signage, because I was thinking positive affirmations. How can we get some positivity out there? And I pitched it to a number of schools, and it was great. And we had this, really cool look. And I was talking with some principals, and this one principal was like, we want programming around the signage. I was developing all of these cool slogans, all of these positive affirmations, and thinking about the change it can make inside of a school. And then as soon as we started talking about programming around that signage, I was just like, are you kidding? I remember I was like, I had a whole day planned, and I got back in my car and I drove straight home and I just started designing. And then I looked up respectful signage. Okay, so I own that already. So what a Respectful Ways. Yeah, Respectful Ways. Is that open as a domain? And sure enough, it was. And I was just like, buy, as fast as I could. And then, I grabbed amazing educators and counselors and, advisors in education, because I knew that even though I might be an award-winning writer, I wanted to make sure that everything was written in a way that was comfortable for educators, comfortable for counselors and specialists. So then I grabbed a team, but it wasn't that hard to flip from broadcasting to the internet. So I was just sort of use those skills as a documentary producer and project manager, and you move it over to the internet and managing people. Instead of producing a documentary, I'm producing modules and courses for the internet. And in fact, it's funny because I have some of the signs. These are the original signs that came out. Giving feels good. And the little emojis, it just brings back so many great little memories of bringing up all of our ideas. And just those were the days when we were just developing the concept of it all. And now here we are, it's pretty cool. So yeah, it was not that far of a leap or a stretch to producing broad television news to producing for the internet. It really wasn't.
So we can all thank your sister for this.
Yeah, that absolutely. I was just always fascinated. She just was the champion in her school for character education, and she'd make these monthly, each month was, courage, and the next one would be perseverance. And I just loved what she was doing. And, after she left that school, it really made a difference because she was the champion for character education, social emotional learning, and now she does some part-time work for them. She couldn't leave the classroom. So the mission itself is to make an impact on the school, on the community, the kiddos, the adults in the building. And I didn't want this to just be about having a moment at, 20 minutes in the morning of a digital experience. We're a digital curriculum, but it's delivered as a classroom. So the teachers are projecting on a whiteboard and the kids are in it and they're turning to each other, they're communicating, they're sharing ideas. It's project, hands-on based, research based, evidence based. It's very interactive, lots of worksheets, very engaging. They're out of their seats, they're doing stuff. We have 2 musicians on staff. I can't wait to tell you about them. And so it's very engaging. And so the mission is to make sure that that awesome 20-minute, 30-minute experience is just not over and done with. And then, kids are back to their shenanigans because you have to have systemic SEL. So the mission of Respectful Ways is to make sure that we go beyond that 20 minutes. That systemic SEL happens because we have posters and the signage is on the walls. So that moment that kid from, let's just say they did Believe in You Will Achieve a month earlier, and then he's just getting frustrated because he can't get that problem. That sign's on the wall. That teacher can say, hey, kiddo, listen, it's okay. Remember, we believe in you will achieve. You got it in here. We got this. We got this. And those moments you can have. And so we have posters and banners and capes. We have capes. We have superhuman capes for the kiddos. And that was another fun one because I thought of that one because everything at the time, it was all about Superwoman and Superman and superhero. And I was just like, what happened to humanity? This is how Thinkering Collective and how much we're alike. I was just like, what happened to this superhuman? We're human together. It's not just about Superman and Superwoman. We're superhuman. So I was like, we need to make a cape. So I was just like, let's make this cape. So we did. We made a cape. And now think about that. You just utilize these items to make an impact on those children so that by on Friday for that kid who believed, they're wearing that cape with such pride because then they did it, they worked through it and they made it and they won, they got to wear the cape. But then the other kid's like, I want the cape next week. It's all about that belief system. So the mission is to not just have those little moments, but teachable moments throughout the day. Another one of my favorite posters is will you make someone smile today? There are these cheap or free printable posters that we've got of our characters. We'll get into trauma informed and how we're trauma informed in a minute, but we have 11 characters that make our programming. And we ask the question, how will you make someone smile today? And so we tell the schools, put them up in the hallways and in the cafeteria. So when you're lining up to go on to recess and there's a moment, there it is on the wall. And you ask like little Tammy, okay, how are you going to make someone smile today? And then she gets to stop and think. And then the kids around her are all like smiling and thinking about it. And then everyone's just having that little moment. So if you can change the energy of a school or the hallway or the cafeteria or the recess playground, you've won. And that's my mission.
So now I need to steal a cape too.
We have adult side capes, and the best part is when the administrators are prancing around in them. And don't you worry, we have video of the adults literally prancing around in their superhuman capes. So
Perfect. We were just talking about humanizing learning and, Thinkering that's what we're all about. And you built an entire platform just around that, teaching kids how to treat themselves and others with respect. Why is respect such a crucial and powerful starting point
My gosh. Respect is like respect. If you can start with respect, you can handle approaching anyone with compassion. If you can handle respect, you've got like all of a sudden you're curious. If you can approach someone with respect, you're curious about them. If you can approach someone with respect, you can empathize with them. If you can approach someone with respect, you might understand them. If you can approach someone with respect, you might have like more like understanding and like brain powers, like what I'm trying to get at. It opens you up. If I'm trying to explain myself a little bit, it's just getting to the core of humanity. And so that's how I feel about it. I just think it's just such a core belief and structure and comfort zone. If you can be in that place of approaching life with a sense of respect towards others, you win. That's how you win in life. That is would make everyone just a better human being, a better place to live, better mother and father, a better student, a beautiful life. You know, wouldn't that be a really special place if we all lived with respect in our heart?
And it's just kind of that filling up the cup with the good. There's not really room for the bad.
Yeah, you're curious. You were wondering. You're like, huh, what's that person all about? You know, a wonderment. You know, and then all of a sudden you're both comfortable in your own comfort zone. You're all of a sudden there's a comfortability there. And we all need to approach everything with respect, you know?
I think that's kind of what stands out is your curriculum is deeply backed in research, but it also feels deeply human. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of that and how you connect the two of those together?
Yeah, well, it's deeply human because it was just organically made, authentically made. I did not go and, figure out, like, I'm going to go look up Second Step and I'm going to go find out what they're doing and copy whatever. I was just like, oh, yeah, let's do this. I know how to produce. I'm going to produce. And then, so it's very organic and authentic and bringing in like musicians. And I love music. So it was a no brainer. Evan Dangerfield is a 20-something-year-old kid now, who at the time, as an older teenager, 1920, wrote and has since rewritten hip hop and rap songs for all of our teen material. He runs, goodness, come on, what are the Hummingbird Studios? And he's just killing it in life right now. And so I just approached him and I said, hey, you want to listen to these again? He goes, well, I know I can make these better. That was 5 years ago. And he's just exploding in life. So we just re-upped it. That's the beauty of digital content. We are just constantly making our product better and better and better. And so that was a lot of fun. And then Marlon Montgomery is another musician who's weaves throughout our programming. And he is now a vice president of youth development for the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta. And even before he went on board with Boys and Girls Club, we have a success story with them that I just absolutely love. We've been with Boys and Girls Club, and we met him before he now has this big dog job, and we were in Boys and Girls Club, and all these kids are just, where's my phone? They're just like this, they're just like this, and we have to talk about the kids. We do, Jim. We have to talk about the kids because there is just new data going on out there. Parents are unaware of the loneliness and the level of mental health sickness that's going on right now with their kids. That 9 out of 10 parents are unaware that like 6 out of 10 kids are emotionally distraught and lonely, sad, isolated. The word isolated is involved in that report, and it came from the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as another organization. It's a new report. So these kids are just not even paying attention to each other. They're all like this. And we have these let's chat conversation cards. That's all part of our programming. It's always the icebreaker for every one of our modules is the icebreaker. It's the let's chat conversation cards. So we have one called, if you don't fit in, make your own category. And then, what makes you unique and different is the first question. And what can you do to make your uniqueness shine? I haven't read this card in a minute. Think about how many, with hundreds of questions we have. And what particular things do you like about your partner or other people in your class? So they get to talk about each other. So this is a perfect example. I didn't even read this one. That's perfect. So what happened at Boys and Girls Club, when we were piloting with them years ago, they grabbed Let's Chat conversation cards and they got their kids talking. And then we're meeting with the staff and they're just like, these kids are all buddies. They have bona fide friendships. They all get together. It's fist bump, high five. How's it going? Conversations, phones are down. They're like, you have changed the entire club. I'm like, that is a great testimonial. May I get that in writing to put on our website, please? And you can see it. How organic and authentic is that? I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's a card, and you get in front, and you talk, and then they learn. And that was just brilliant. Like, that is so cool that this was the one that was on top. So yeah, and that's it. It was just an authentic and organic way that everything came about. From the musicians on staff, the poets. We have poets on staff that we hired. We don't need the poets much anymore because most of our programming is done. I should take that back. We are producing 7 more modules right now because the districts that buy us gobble us up. And as you get multi-year contracts, we have to keep producing. But hey, if they keep on wanting us, we'll keep producing. So we are in the throes of building pre-K through 2nd grade content, 7 more modules, but we have content up through 12th grade.
It's a lot of content.
It is. It's a lot, but that's my wheelhouse and that's my joy. And that's where I love it. It's a lot more fun than, calls and emails.
I hear you there. You keep talking about the musicians, and that just really keeps making me want to go to that with the interactive lessons, music, games, poetry, all the different aspects. Probably leaving out so many. How does that apply to the trauma-informed practices, and what inspired you to go that route?
Yeah. So Respectful Ways is a bona fide trauma-informed social emotional curriculum.
Let me stop you there real quick. As a layman, what does that mean?
What that means is that our programming is written in a way and delivered in a way that all students feel comfortable learning respectful ways. We are written in a way to not trigger a child whose brain development might trigger a child to feel fight, flight, freeze, fawn, frustration. So the Attachment and Trauma Network is our partners. They are brilliant experts in the industry of trauma-informed practices, trauma-informed strategies, and they vetted all of our lesson plans that were written by educators and counselors and all of our digital slides and the interactive activities that are student pointing to make sure that it's not written in a way to trigger someone to feel on the spot, so if a student, so it's like perfect example is, give me an example of you doing the right thing, Jim. So if I say that to you and you are a child with a high ACE score, ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. If you have had an adverse childhood experiences in your life, you come from a divorced family, alcoholics, you name it, you've had my goodness, the survey, forgive me, I can't remember how many questions are in the survey, but 3 or more as a number, an ACE number, means that you are going to have possible brain development changes. 5, 6, or higher of an ACE score, you absolutely could easily have brain development. And one of my favorites is Daniel Siegel has this hand-brain model, so easy to understand. So here's a brain. Here, think of this as the spine. When a child flips their lid, they just, I get so mad. This exposes the thumb, which is representing the amygdala. And this is where all our big feelings are. So they have this moment, they flip their lid, and our amygdala is where like these big feelings are. Well, theirs is larger in size because every day their brains think that they're fighting a bear. They're fighting that big lion that's in the woods because every day they go home to the, father or mother or brother who might be abusing them. And so whether they do or not, just walking through the front door can spawn the cortisol and the hundreds of hormones that release into the bloodstream. So think about that. Whoever might be causing and wreaking havoc in that child's life could be having a good day or week. It doesn't even matter. That child still could have the stress. So every day that kid has that, and that changes the brain development. So you ask that child, give me an example of you doing the right thing when every day they're told they're a POS. They're, think about that. They're not they are fight, flight, freeze. You've lost them. And it takes hours. The data is out there. They can't immediately come back to just understanding academics. They're just not retaining. And you might think they are because they might have been fawn or freeze. So they're just out there in outer space. They're sort of like this. And you think, oh, good. Little Johnny is my troublemaker. He's fine. No, he's not. He's completely out there because there's just stress hormone going through his bloodstream right now. So being trauma informed means that our programming will do its best to not trigger a child. So statistically is 1 in 5 children have high ACE scores. So do the math. If there's 25 children in a classroom, in every classroom in America, 5 children have brain development issues or high ACE score. And think about how many educators might have high ACE scores. Think about how many people that are around us in America as adults didn't even realize that they themselves have high ACE scores and that they've lived their life with stress and anxiety and needing coping skills. So what we give them is coping skills. That's what this is. And this is what's so shocking is how social and emotional learning has been politicized when really what it is giving kids coping skills so they can know deep breathing exercises. They can turn to, we have posters free. We give them away for free. When you get the programming, we have at it. Print those posters out, turn to them and tell the kid and say, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe. Which one do we want to do? Which coping skill are we going to use? So there's, it's so important to be trauma informed, and very few SEL programs are. And I feel touched and honored and privileged and tickled that we are. And it is not because we put it on our website. We did the hard work of, paid time, effort, and money to be trauma informed and spent months rewriting our lesson plans and reworking our slides because they're digital. So you get to update and then hit save and then upload to the web. And we did it. And they're great. And that's a lot of schools, whether you are rural or urban, and you have children and it doesn't matter. None the wiser. So how we phrase it's instead of give me an example of you doing the right thing, it's give me the example of someone doing the right thing in a movie or in a TV show or something you've seen in real life. And then that's it. Everyone in the classroom is empowered. They're all like, ooh, I know. I've seen it. They're all empowered. No one's energy has been sucked. They can answer the question. And the last thing I want to talk to you about this is that we worked really hard we didn't even realize when we were building this, again, authentic, organic, what do we want to do? And we made characters, when we were sitting there going, okay, so we made up the name. It's called Respectful Ways. And it's working off the signage. We're going to have the idea and then how many activities around it, how many modules, build this whole development. And I said, we got to have characters. The characters have to grow in age with them. And if you go to our website, you'll see our characters. And each of these characters, they're very trauma informed because the characters learn the hard lessons. So we've got Lila, our African-American female, and she's a little first grader, and then she's a fourth grader, and then she's a beautiful teenager. And we have Omar, who's special needs in a wheelchair, and Martin, who's Hispanic, and Riley, who is our ambassador. She's the ambassador of Respectful Ways. So she's on a lot of the, products, and she's like on the, the awards and stuff. We do awards and everything and all that thing. So, but yeah, so our characters are a huge part of it because inside the programming, it's Martin's going to learn a lesson here. and that's thank God. I mean, how great was that? That was just a wonderful coincidence when ATN and I started talking, Attachment Trauma Network, when we started talking about partnering and developing the product to be trauma informed, it was just like, okay, perfect. These characters will be the ones that will be the scenarios to learn the lessons. So the pressure is off the students, it's off the kids. So that was another little blessing. Yeah.
Love the term thinkering, and we'll definitely use it in my classroom. The kids will love it.
This is where we can be that peer support network with each other. When the big picture clicks, it's beautiful when you get administrators and teachers together.
You can't be a leader of other people if you can't first lead yourself, right?
Helps the educator have a very clear and structured framework.
Becomes this real community hub. If you're a great educator, you're looking for the most powerful moment. Can we inspire kids to believe that the world needs who they were made to be?
I hope you guys continue to uphold that legacy and continue, finding kids like you.